Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Diwanawanga, and welcome everybody to Aggressive Negotiations, a Star Wars podcast here on the Nerd Party Network that approaches things from a slightly different point of view. I'm one of your hosts, Jedi Master John Mills, and with me as always is Jedi Master Matthew Rushing. Hello, Matt. How are you doing today?
John, I'm doing great. I enjoyed the little hutties there, so welcome everyone. So that's always a great way to start off a show. We should do an entire show in hutties and have subtitles.
Well, I'll tell you what, that'll be the week that I take off, and you and whoever can speak Huttese can have a great time.
Yeah. I just don't know how the people are going to read the subtitles on the podcasts, though.
Oh, come on. If people aren't fluent in Huttese after 30-some-odd years, Matt, they're not really trying.
I mean, we are going to hit the 40th anniversary of Star Wars next year, so that's pretty awesome.
They've had decades to learn Huttese and Rhodian and all of those things. And
so if you thought the build-up to Force Awakens was big, 40 years of Star Wars and Episode 8, your mind is just going to be
exploding. Yes, it's going to be.
I mean, it's already ticking down now in my brain. I can feel the clock that's saying you already need to buy non-existent Force Awakens merch. Well, not Force Awakens, whatever they're going to call it.
They'll re-release the Force Awakens merchandise with a different banner. They did that with Empire Strikes Back. It was all the same figures, just with a different label.
Yeah, exactly.
It was always good stuff. Good stuff. But as wonderful as it is to walk down that memory lane, what I can tell you is that this week, what we're going to be discussing is we're going to be continuing our soundtracks discussion, our non-sequential series, where we're talking about the music of A Galaxy Far, Far Away. And this week brings us to a film that most would overlook, I think, when it comes to the soundtracks, might even overlook when they're counting down how many Star Wars movies have been released in the theaters. And that's The Clone Wars, which came out in 2008. And it sort of shook things up because it was an animated movie. It was a Star Wars movie, and it was starting to fill in the gap between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. So we've set the stage there with, everybody knows the TV show that sprang out of this. Not everybody saw it in the movie theater. It opened at number 3, if I recall correctly. But one of the key aspects of it that made it very Star Wars was its audio signature. Williams didn't do the soundtrack, but it was done by a very talented gentleman by the name of Kevin Kiner. And so we're here to go through that soundtrack and sort of offer our thoughts on hits, misses, what we loved about it, what we thought maybe could have been better. But I'll let you start it off, Matt, with giving us your rundown of the Clone Wars movie soundtrack. What is it that makes this work for you? Does it count as part of the Star Wars audio universe, or any other thoughts you might have?
Well, for me, it does, because I remember I actually saw this in the theater opening weekend, and I loved it immediately. I thought it was fantastic. I honestly thought it was one of the most Star Wars things I had seen since, the last film had been out, and it felt so good. Like, I don't know what it was other than what I just said. It grabbed me, and
yeah,
I think part of that was that the audio soundtrack was reminiscent of Star Wars, and it had such a big part in the film as well. I mean, the beginning of the film is, that chatter, the clone chatter.
Yes.
He's coming, and then you get the boom, and the big logo comes on the screen, and it's bam, bam, and it's kind of this militarized, sped up version of the theme from Star Wars, and it makes it feel like one of those old serials. Like, immediately you're drawn back, and so there was this immediate connection with the thing that Star Wars has been copying for so long. and it felt even more like that than it ever had before. And I think that just captured me immediately. The main title, and then driving right into, what they call a galaxy divided. It just grabbed me with the music, and it pulled me right in, saying from the beginning, this is Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I saw it opening weekend as well. I mean, big shock that we both did, and I remember going in very skeptical. I was sort of the mindset of, I knew the history of it, that it's the first several episodes of what was intended to be just basically the beginning of the show, and they recombined it and re-edited it to make a movie. And I was sort of going, I won't lie, out of a sense of duty, where it was like, oh, it's a Star Wars movie, I should go see it. And it caught me off guard. And I agree with you that the first thing it does it is the main theme song, but it changes the meter and it changes the instrumentation on it in such a way that it just it lets you know that you're in a different era of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's a great success on Kiner's part. Now, moving forward from that, you do go into a galaxy divided, but then, and forgive me if I'm jumping ahead here, but throughout the rest of the soundtrack, and I think it starts actually with when they first introduced Admiral Yularen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are other cues, including a cue from Cloud City and a cue from, there are different cues from Jedi and Empire and clones, and all of these sprinkled throughout the score. Now, that very much helps weave it into the Star Wars, audio footprint. How did you feel about Kiner bringing those in? I mean, like recognizable pieces of music from the other scores and working them into these themes. Do you feel that helped contribute to its success, or do you think that did it work against it in any way for you? Did it take you out of it and say, oh, I remember that scene from the other movie?
It's funny because you're talking specifically, you started there with the Admiral Yularen, and what's wonderful about that is that it's reminiscent of things that have come from Star Wars, but again, it has a different meter, a different tempo, it's got some different instrumentation, so it feels fresh and new. So that whenever Kiner is using something from the rest of the series, he's making it the Clone Wars own. And I think one of the smartest things actually that this soundtrack does, the series does as a whole, is that George did not want the music to lean upon the crutch of the music that had come before. He wanted the music to feel very much this series' music, to expand and explore what it meant to be the audio language of Star Wars. And so this soundtrack actually has a few cues where you can hear things from the other films, but the majority of it's new stuff. I mean, Kiner just got to go and create a lot of new themes, new feels. And I think, honestly, that's probably the smartest thing that they did was, and it's the knock that I would have against what they did in Rebels, is that, Rebels relies so much on the audio language of Star Wars from the other films and just kind of reusing it.
I mean, season
Clone
one
Wars
just
doesn't
lifted.
Do that.
Yeah, season one of Rebels just lifted whole cues and just basically did them with a synthesizer.
Right.
Whereas this, I agree with you. Like there are hints of it, and there are transitional cues where it's just enough to the way I look at it is it could work to its detriment, except I think they knew that they had a challenge with getting this, even when it was just a series. There was a lot of skepticism from people about whether it was going to work, whether people were going to watch, why would I want to watch a series about the clones? I mean, I know why you and I would, but it's a harder sell to other people. So I think that bringing in that music helps sell it to the more skeptical fans, because it's sort of a safety blanket. Like when you hear those transitional cues, you can sort of feel like, okay, yeah, it is Star Wars. It is Star Wars. Even though I'm meeting new characters and, it's casting, a different look on things like the clones. Now,
Well, and the cool part about it as well is that the music, and this sounds strange, but it has a more militaristic feel to it.
Oh, yeah.
Especially like when you get into like the Battle of Christophsis and a lot of those other battles that we get into, the music has a driving feel to it. It kind of feels more like a war movie, but it does a great job of bringing in some nice male vocals in the background as well, and it really gives you a sense that you're in something and you're in it deep, and it went along with the visuals. I mean, we're seeing clones get shot left and right, I mean, they're not holding anything back. This is a kids TV show where clones are legitimately dying front of the screen. It's crazy.
No, I'm glad you say that, because Battle of Christophsis, which is a good cue, but when they get up and they charge and they say, okay, let's go get them, the first guy to stand up, and I love this because this is sort of an old war movie trope, the first guy to stand up and, take charge, he doesn't do anything heroic. He gets shot in the head and drops immediately.
Yeah.
And it's that war movie trope that is so much, forgive me for saying this, but it's fun to see because, like, that it's a joke. That it's a throwaway reference to all of the war movies that you've seen. And I think that the Battle of Christophsis music is very successful. But I think that, in all honesty, this soundtrack shines when you get to stuff like Battle of Teth and the Bomar Monks.
Yep.
And additionally, any of the music that has to do with Zero the Hutt, which I have to say...
Well, thank you, John. I'm so glad that you think my music is fantastic.
If there was a character in this, a single character that I desperately wish could have found their way into the live action films, it was Zero the Hutt, because he got back to the sense of fun and whimsy that I love about the Star Wars movies. And like a Hutt that wears makeup and sounds like Truman Capote is one of the most wonderfully 20th century postmodern references you could put in a movie. And it's just put in a kid's movie. It's just, here you go.
Yeah.
Here's this thing.
And they won't know what it is, but, all their parents probably do, Senator, what are you doing here? Man, it's fantastic.
It's so great. It's so great. And...
well,
so, I think his cues really, even on the released version of the soundtrack, you can tell that whoever animated him, whoever wrote him, and when Kiner did the music for him, you can tell that they just said, oh yeah, let's just have a blast with this. It's so much fun to listen to.
And one of the things that's really fun about that, John, is that those cues, there is a refinement to the club music that you get for Zero that you don't get at Jabba's Palace. It's that jazzy, like uptown, dive bar, jazz bar kind of thing that you just don't, expect when you think of Hutts, because we're so used to seeing Jabba's Palace, whereas this is the Coruscant Hutt. This is the high class Hutt.
Well, I like that you called that out.
With the big band.
Well, no, I really like that you called that out because I almost wonder, do you feel that Zero's audio signature, that jazzier, uptown city tempo that it has to it, do you think that it is more of a callback to, not a callback, but sort of an answer to Jabba's Baroque recital and Lapti Nek, or to Jedi Rocks? Because Jabba, if we go by Return of the Jedi standards, is, he's the rock and roll Mick Jagger guy. And then Zero is the jazz uptown guy. But Jabba also has this Baroque, music playing in the background when everybody first, I think that's actually what the track is called on the Return of the Jedi soundtrack, is Jabba's Baroque recital. So do you think it's in answer to Jedi Rocks, or do you think it's just because the character called for it?
I really do think it is just because the character calls for it. He has that Louisiana charm to him, and so the jazz kind of oozes out of him as well as his club, and I think that with the big band feel, it just feels like Coruscant back in the 40s, to put it in our terms, with the jazz, big band, everything flowing together, it almost feels like he runs a speakeasy, and he has that whole feel to him. And so I really like that. I think it works so well with the character and the film and everything that's happening at that point. And I think Kiner really shined there by creating something very unique as a signature for Hutt that did a great job of distinguishing him from what we hear at Jabba's palace in this soundtrack, which is very tribal. Tatooine's
Right.
on the outer rim, feeling very much almost kind of like an Old West, sound with an Eastern influence. Do
you think with the music that is for Jabba in this, like obviously his audio footprint is different, very much more eclectic almost in Return of the Jedi. Do you think that the music says anything about Jabba's character at this point? Like, do you think it says something about where he is in terms of the storyline, or do you think it's just because he's on Tatooine that it sounds like this?
I think it could be partly Tatooine, but I also think that the sound signature for him is a little rougher. It's a little less refined that we do get, from the Baroque recital. This is Jabba who's not at the top yet. I mean, Jabba is one of the top Hutts, but he's not the top Hutt that you think of. Because there are a lot of other Hutts in the council that we'll meet throughout the Clone Wars. And so, this, I think, reflects more his station, which is he's on the outer rim, and so it gives him kind of that kind of down and dirty feel,
Okay.
Which I kind of like. I wanted to ask you real quick before we kind of move on from that area of the soundtrack there at the beginning. What did you think about the little cue of Meet Ahsoka and kind of introducing her? It's not a real overt theme, but it's kind of just there. I wonder what you thought of that.
Oh no, I love Ahsoka's theme, and I will say, let me open the door here to you and to the audience. When I listen to the Clone Wars soundtrack, the Ahsoka music, because I'm the father of 3 absolutely perfect, amazing little girls. It was 2 at the time, 3 now. Ahsoka's music is very evocative of what I feel inside when I, interact with my girls, what I see in them, when I see their potential, when I see them working to grow, and those sorts of things. And I know that it's a cue for a character in a cartoon movie set in Star Wars, but I think that Kiner created a truly enduring and not just memorable, but emotionally resonant theme in that regard. I mean, just going from my own reaction to it, and it's still, I could still very easily listening to the soundtrack get choked up because it brings forth those feelings. And in a sense, knowing Lucas's relationship with his kids, like it almost feels like I have no idea if this is the case or not, but I would go out on a limb and say that the way Ahsoka's theme plays, and given the reaction that I have to it, it almost feels like a little love signature for Lucas's kids. Because Ahsoka is so much a character that is almost, she's a reflection on what it's like to have a kid, have a daughter, And I almost wonder if Kiner talking with Lucas and maybe seeing him interact with his kids or anything like that produces Ahsoka's theme. I mean, just the way it resonates with me, that's what I think.
Well, and I think what's great about the theme is the way that it is. It gives you a lot of movement for how he'll use that theme later on as she continues to grow, and that theme will kind of evolve throughout the series. So I think it's a great starting point, and I'm with you. I think that theme does a great job of introducing the character of Ahsoka to us and giving us that sense of like whimsy and playfulness and innocence. And I think that's perfect for who that character is at the beginning. She's raw. She's green. And she's going to grow throughout the series. And I think it's like you said, it's a beautiful little piece of music.
Well, and I think, also as we're sitting here talking about it, something that sort of occurs to me is that she becomes Anakin's apprentice, and Anakin's theme has always been, the Imperial March, essentially. And, even when he was, the little kid, there were hints of it in there. What I like about Ahsoka's theme, as we're sitting here talking about it, is that it's very much like a counterpoint to who Anakin is becoming.
Yes. Yeah.
When you listen to her theme in this soundtrack, you can almost hear the Jedi Council's intention in giving him a Padawan, trying to soften him, trying to teach him an important lesson about things, and trying to bring forward that innocence that maybe is being blunted as he's fighting this war. So, I would love now, and I'll probably do this as soon as we're done recording, I would love to play Meet Ahsoka with the Imperial March and just listen to them play off of each other. I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah. No, that's a great thought. And I think you're exactly right. The innocence that you get with her theme, you think back to episode 1 and the music for Anakin is a riff on and a different key of the Imperial March and just a reworking of those notes. And so I love that this is a great counterpoint to that, and kind of that in the end she's not going to go down that road. She is going to be different than both him and her other master, and because really in the series she kind of has two as Obi-Wan, and she is going to kind of split the difference between the two. Now
we've talked about all of these beautiful cues and the way that they work, and of course we've talked about the success of the more militaristic iterations of the themes and the Battle of Teth and those sorts of things. Is there anything about the soundtrack that did not work for you? Is there anything where there's a cue where maybe when you were watching the movie it didn't necessarily hit you, but when you listen to the soundtrack you think, I'm not nuts about this one? Is there anything that you feel was any sort of misstep in the soundtrack?
It's interesting because I remember when I first saw the movie, it surprised me, the rock guitar, especially in Obi-Wan to the Rescue. It shows up on the Battle of Teth. There's a few places where that is, as well as the kind of Eastern vocals that you'd get in Landing on Teth and those kind of things. Those stood out to me because they're very different from the rest of Star Wars. So I do remember seeing the film and thinking, I don't know if I like that. And this is one of those instances where, we've been having this behind-the-scenes conversation about The Force Awakens and our opinions changing or not changing and all that kind of stuff. And this is one of those places where my opinion did shift, but it shifted to me accepting it and actually really liking it because I remembered that Williams itself had used some electric guitar in Episode 2.
Yes.
And so it made sense that would show up again in the Clone Wars series. So I could connect the beginning of the Clone Wars to this series and see where Kiner probably actually got some of his inspiration for bringing that electric guitar in, because that was a big action sequence in Episode 2.
Yeah,
as Obi-Wan jumps out the window, doing one of the most incredible Jedi things we'd ever seen before. So for me, that's where I started off in one place where I didn't really like it, and I kind of moved to a place where I actually really enjoyed it. So,
it's interesting. I'm glad that you call that out because I would say that I like it better here to this day. When I listen to the Attack of the Clones soundtrack, it is so jarring to hear that electric guitar.
It is very different.
It pulls me right out because it's so different. I would say that the electric guitar here, I was more accepting of it because it's an animated movie. It's a different feel, it's a different flow, but it seemed to fit better with this type of action sequence than just, a wailing guitar while they're speeding through Coruscant. Coruscant, to get back to talking about Zero, Coruscant feels like jazz, and so jazz feels like it belongs there, and so Zero's theme really works there. Guitar seems to work for a really just, hitting it action sequence where you're, like it just seems like this was a better choice for the electric guitar. Now, I'm not tearing down the Attack of the Clones soundtrack by any stretch. I'm just saying that it's to this day, however, so many years later, it's still jarring when you listen to that soundtrack. And it's so weird, whereas I listen to this soundtrack and it just fits. It fits better.
No, I think that I'm on the same page as you completely, because there is something about the way it's used here that fits the action that's happening, the driving militaristic action that's happening, and that's one of the things I think that's really so fantastic about the way the Clone Wars started. One, I do love that we started with a film and in theaters, whether people enjoyed it or not, or went to see it or not, because one, they got to use the city of Prague's Philharmonic Orchestra to do this soundtrack. And I think that was a real success to start the series off with a nice audio basis, with a real orchestra, no synthesizer, none of that kind of stuff. This is just, what we are used to hearing from Star Wars. So it set it in our brain that this is Star Wars, and we've got a real orchestra playing it, and the music is just as important as it was in the series. And I think that the orchestration that Kiner gives to the scenes really helps. And it also gave us just a new feel, and it expanded what we thought of Star Wars music. And it allowed George, it allowed Dave, and it allowed Kiner to give us a broader sense of the Star Wars galaxy. Because one of the things that I really love is the fact that the Clone Wars is going to open up the Star Wars galaxy like nothing had before. And by allowing the music to do the same, it can all come together. You know what I'm saying? Like, each place can have a new sound and a different sound, and it make it feel more organic to what's happening on screen than just throwing old themes on a new place that don't necessarily... because you've talked about this before, John, where you pull music that has another memory attached to it, and you slap it on something else.
Yep. And
it doesn't feel the same, and they weren't trying to do that with the Clone Wars, and I think that was a huge success.
Completely agree. So I would say if the Clone Wars cartoon has been out, it's on Netflix and everything, and I think that people, if you haven't gone and seen the movie, you should see the movie. And of course, I'm also a big proponent of watching it the way that, in release order. I think chronological order is a cheat, but anyway, that's a different discussion for a different day.
Well, and I think that's fine too. If you're watching it for the first time, I think doing release order is great. I think chronological, if we've talked about, is a great thing to do just as an experiment to enjoy,
Sure.
So I think, just what we're saying is go watch it. Don't wait. Just do it now.
So far, we've gone through and we have discussed the Phantom Menace soundtrack. We've discussed Attack of the Clones, and we've discussed Revenge of the Sith, and we've discussed the Clone Wars. So this is actually going to bring us next in the series to the original 1977 soundtrack.
Ooh, is it? Because we have two soundtracks for Rebels.
Really? Do you want to do Rebels?
Oh, I definitely think that Rebels Season 2 is worth talking about. So, I'm just saying, I think that they're worth discussing.
Because we've okay. All right. No, that's fair, because we're obviously not doing release order. So, okay. Well, let's go ahead. Let's change it up. And that means we'll definitely be doing the Shadows of the Empire soundtrack.
Oh, yes, we are.
Which will be interesting in and of itself.
Yes, it will.
It's a whole own thing.
Maybe with that one, we even reread the book and we talk about them both together.
I've reread the book a couple of times. I'm good.
Is that enough for you?
Yeah, I'm good. Me and Guri, we got it figured out. But you know what else people can do? Go out, listen to the soundtrack, love it, live it, learn it. But what else you can do is you can go to lootcrate.com/nerdparty, enter the code nerdparty at checkout, and you will get a discount on a pretty incredible subscription service where they send you a box of goodies of, limited edition toys, apparel, trinkets, mugs, the whole gamut of things. You never know quite what you're going to get until you get it. This month, right now, they have a Shocktober theme where they're covering the horror movies that we've all known and loved growing up. Friday the 13th, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, all of this stuff. Go to lootcrate.com/nerdparty, enter the code nerdparty, get your discount, get your box. Tell us what you get.
Yeah, we want to know.
Because it varies from area to area. It's awesome. So, go ahead, do that. Help yourself, help the network.
Well, and John, if they want to share what they got, you can always do that with us on Twitter. We're at the Jedi Masters. So it's at Jedi Masters. We're also on Twitter with just the Nerd Party, which is at Join Nerd Party.
Yes.
You can email us your loot. You can do that at an@thenerdparty.com. Mm-hmm. And of course, you know what, John? They can also go over to Facebook at facebook.com/thenerdparty and share it with us as well. But you know what? We're going to do something really special tonight, John, because we have a review contest, and we promised that we would pick the winner this week. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go over to iTunes here. We've got our reviews up. We want to thank everybody who's gone over there and done that. Appreciate you guys getting in your reviews. It means a lot to us. It really helps the show grow. And even though, I want to say this, even though we are ending the contest, we can still use your reviews because it really helps the show grow. As everybody knows, there's a lot of Star Wars podcasts out there. If you want to help our show grow, best way to do that, hit us up on iTunes, give us a star rating and review. So, John, I've got all the reviews up here. I'm not really looking. You can see my eyes are closed right now, and I can
verify this, everybody.
I'm pointing at the screen, and the winner is GALLANDRO1.
Yay!
Galandro1. Galandro1, you are our winner. Just send us an email over there at an@thenerdparty.com. Send us your address, and we'll get you out your loot. I am excited because there will be a fun Rogue One surprise in there for somebody. So
yes.
Yeah, I'm really appreciate that, Galandro1. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody else, and we really appreciate all the support that we get from the listeners because, well, you guys are the best. And
you're the reason we do this, everybody.
Otherwise it would just be us talking Star Wars, and we'll do that, but we appreciate the fact that you guys. Yeah,
but we'll usually do it through snarky text messages. Honestly,
this is true.
Instead of recording it, we record it for you.
Yeah. We don't share those with the public. That's brother to brother. It's
probably a good call. Probably
so.
All right. Well, you know what? You told everybody how they can reach out to us. In terms of the show, how can they reach you, Matt? Because you're on just about every corner of the internet. Where can they reach you?
Well, a good corner is Twitter. And you can find me there at MattRushing02. You can also find me on the Trek FM network. I'm doing a few shows there. I do The Orb with Chris Jones, talking about Deep Space Nine. Of course, Literary Treks with Bruce and Dan, where we're talking about the books and the comics of Star Trek, talking to the authors about their books. So much fun. The 602 Club, our general geek show there on the network, which is just a blast. And I think everybody will enjoy that because we do a lot of Star Wars there. In fact, we have a special Star Wars feed. And if you're searching just for that on iTunes, you can find that at Star Wars, a 602 Club collection. I highly recommend that because John is on just about every episode there with a bunch of other amazing guests. And I have to say, collecting some of the best Star Wars discussions had nothing to do with the fact that I'm on, just with the amazing people that we get on. So I think it's just great Star Wars discussion for you. So check out all of those shows, the places that I'm at. John, you're all over the place too online. And in fact, your blog is back up and running. So tell everybody where people can find you.
Oh, well, thank you, Matt. KesselJunkie.com. I'm stirring the pot again. It happens every so often. I emerge from my slumber and start making people angry.
Yeah,
or
like
happy.
the Bendu.
Huh?
Like the Bendu.
Yes, right. Exactly like that. It is precisely like the Bendu, actually.
And he doesn't have hair either, so.
That's true. And I just have so much wisdom. I have to share it with everybody. But you know what? More importantly, look for the handle Kessel Junkie on your social network of choice. I'm out there. It's like sending up a flare. I'll find you. And you could also hear me on Stage 9 on the Trek FM network with Mike Schindler, where we discuss the non-Trek works of Trek creators. And you can hear me with Craig Sorrell on a podcast called Words with Nerds, which is a delightful romp through insanity.
John, I think after all of that, there's only one thing left to say. I think it's time to close negotiations.
Matthew, negotiations are closed.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.